And welcome to the Midday Show. Mark got the warning before the warning, and he is ready. We talked about guns yesterday for about 25, 30 minutes, and just a little bit ago, it's being released. New York State is actually passing bills for gun reform. So we're going to talk about some of those and dive into a little bit more on what we talked about yesterday. The Uvalde police, it's Texas law that you have to wear body cam footage. The debate has turned to should they have to release the body cam footage from the officers. And then you brought to my attention that you have a musical, across races, social question for me that we're going to talk about. You actually said you think I'm going to enlighten you, which surprised me because the idea that you think I would enlighten you on music is shocking.
No, I do. I think this is kind of, it's way more in your wheelhouse than mine. And at first I was surprised, but then I thought maybe I shouldn't be surprised. And if there's anyone who can, like, you'll be able to speak intelligently on this topic, way more intelligently than I could. So I'm going to ask you.
All right, so that'll be interesting. Before we get to all of those topics, I actually do want to tell you about my evening yesterday. But before we get to my evening, Mark, how are you feeling today?
It's been a hectic morning, but it's Friday. So, and it's kind of nice out. So I guess all in all, I have no complaints. It's been a productive morning. I just kind of, chased it all over the place. But so how was your evening?
So I had to give out a scholarship. There is a memorial scholarship for my grandfather. My sister has done it in the past. I think my mom gave it out a couple of times. I think my aunt even did it. I've lost track of how many people have given out this scholarship. I have avoided is the wrong word, but I have somehow navigated. I've either been busy or I'm away I have dodged having to give out this scholarship. Which I hate saying that because it sounds like it's negative and it's really not. I recently was asked if I would do it. I said, sure. So I really only had like a day or two. I drive up last night and I'm getting ready. And when I get there, I realize there is no blurb for our scholarship. So what I mean by that is
let me jump in. What high school?
North Penn Mansfield. So our alumni, my grandfather's alumni, my alumni, essentially most of our family's alumni base is in the Southern Tioga School District.
Is it fair to say that you're related to most of the people in the North Penn School District?
No, not most. Some. I'm certainly related to some. Most is a stretch. Okay. So I get up there and I realize everybody else that's there, it's like a bank is giving out a scholarship, a university is giving out like the Post, the war veterans, and and they all have these blurbs about the scholarship, and they're all nice, but they're all generic and they all sound the same, and they're very matter of factly and to the point. And so I get there and I tell the lady right away, I'm like, listen, I don't have a blurb, like I don't have a paragraph. I was not told that there wouldn't be a thing. So I basically let her know, like, I'm comfortable to speak, but just a heads up, this is not going to be like your hoity-toity, like, scholarship speech. And she's like, it'll be fine. So I get up on the stage, and immediately in the program, it's my sister's name instead of mine because she works in the school district. She was the one that was supposed to give it out. So I immediately, I make a joke.
They were hoping. Is that fair to say? They were hoping she was the one that gave it out?
Well, that was my opening joke. So my opening joke was, obviously I'm not Lindsay Kutz. Unfortunately for you, not only is she smarter than me, she's also funnier and better looking. So you're stuck with me for the next 60 seconds. But I went on and I said a couple of nice things about my grandfather. And then at the end of it, I made everybody drum roll before I gave out the award because I informed everybody this may be the only time I ever get on a stage and give out an award. So I literally paused until almost everybody in the room was drum rolling, like on their legs. I announced the name. She comes up, and I immediately get out of Dodge before someone can say, what a mockery I had made of the scholarship. So I get in the car and I text my sister, and the only thing I texted her was, I made everybody drum roll, and I told everybody you were better looking than me. And she sent back like a ha, 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 glad it went well. And I immediately responded back, I didn't say it went well. I said I made everybody drum roll, and I told them you were better looking than me. So that was how my evening went yesterday. I made a stuffy room of scholarship attendees drum roll on their legs one last time in their high school auditorium.
I think if you take any boring, typical ritual and make it memorable in any way, it's good. Because, we kind of get into these things and it's, yes, I think doing something, having the guts to do something out of the ordinary to make it original makes the world a better place.
I hope so. I hope you're right. So that was my evening yesterday. I was happy to do it. I'll say this too. I was shocked for someone who talks every day, like we have to get on here and talk in front of people that are watching. And for someone who even like, I coach a lot, like I do a lot of these like public speaking settings, I guess. I was shocked at how I still, like palms got a little sweaty, heart started to race a little bit. It is amazing how if you're not public speaking like daily or weekly, it is amazing like getting up on stage in front of a light, like it still triggers some of those same emotions, even being 35.
You can't lock eyes with anyone. That's one of
I didn't.
Yeah. I
did not.
If you just kind of speak of a blurry mass, it's better. As soon as you lock eyes, it distracts you and it makes it more like, oh my God, they're listening. So I'm with you. That's why this is so easy, because in this world, I'm just talking to you. And when I did radio for years, I know I've told this lots of times, and I don't know if people think I don't know if this was like a mental trick that I did to myself, or just that I just always believed, like, why would anyone be listening to this? So that's why I just talked. And it took all the pressure off, because it's like sitting in the car and talking to yourself. So except I used to sit in a studio and talk to myself. So when there's people there, but that is number one trick for anyone that ever has to do any public speaking. Do not lock eyes on anyone. You can look over them is fine. You can just kind of bounce is fine. But just don't kind of pick someone in the front row and go, because then it totally breaks it.
Sure. Yeah, no, it'll throw you off. Want to go through some of this stuff today. We won't take like big 30-minute segments like we did yesterday, but the first two topics I do want to just jump on really quickly. After we talked about guns yesterday, New York lawmakers, they passed legislation. The plan is to raise the legal age to purchase a semi-automatic rifle to 21 from 18. The package of bills will also revise the state's red flag laws, and it will ban most civilians from buying bullet-resistant body vests. This announcement comes after shootings in Buffalo and Texas, and after President Biden's speech last night. Did you get a chance to see President Biden's speech at all?
I did not.
Okay. So he came out and made a speech as well. I did. I got to see it. I felt it felt more like a memorial, and I don't mean that in any negative or positive way. That was just kind of they had the candles lit behind him. He spoke on the tragedies that had occurred over the past week. He touched on, gun control and gun reform and enough is enough. I do remember him saying that once or twice throughout the speech. But to me, it felt more just kind of than anything else. I will say, I think he went out there knowing, though, that some of this stuff was coming down the pipe as far as like New York State and in Washington. Otherwise, I don't know if he would have been as bold to say some of the stuff that he said. This is, one of the things that people forget. He is one of the candidates who accepted money from the NRA. I'm not implying that makes him a hypocrite. I'm not implying that he shouldn't. I'm just saying I think people sometimes forget how many of these people accept money from the NRA.
Do we know how much?
It's pennies compared to what other people accept.
Okay.
It's not a significant sum.
So this kind of strays from the topic slightly, but with Biden speaking, do you think? I don't know how to word this. Do you think when he speaks, do you think it moves the needle at all? Do you think there are any people on the right who actually listen?
On the right, it's just very few and far between. Well, listen's a weird. I don't think listen is the word you're looking for, because I think most people on the right listen because they are very in tune in what he has to say and how he is wrong. So I think they listen. I think the question is like, at any point do they say, oh, that might have been a good point, or like I would consider that. Like, I think most have completely tuned him out from that standpoint.
And maybe I just feel like this is worse. And I know the same thing happened to Trump from the left. And you're right. Everybody on the left listened to what Trump said because they wanted to attack it. So I'm sure that's going. So I guess it goes back. Do you think he has any positive influence on the right?
It's a good question. I think his positive influence on the right, and again, I have been more critical of Biden than of other Democratic presidents in the past. I think one of maybe the positives of Biden is that he will at least listen to the right. I don't think he tries to do. I don't think a lot of his policy and a lot of the things that he's doing is to work together with the right, but he is somebody that he is like middle of the room Joe, and he will sit and he will listen. And so I do think he has relationships on the right that he probably uses more than like Trump did on the left or Obama did on the right. I think Joe probably listens more than the average president.
Okay, and I can see that
now the inaction, I think, is what drives a ton of people crazy.
I can see that in Congress because he was the senator for so long that I'm sure he has friends on both sides. I get that. I just can't. I know that he has to speak because he's the president, but I just can't imagine that for the next 2 years he's going to say anything that has any real influence. And maybe it's not even just his fault. Maybe it's just societally where we are. Maybe it kind of started back, with Obama as the country got so divided that, that no red can say anything good about the blue and no blue can say anything good about the red. But it just seems like I don't know. I don't know how to describe. I just can't imagine, like if this was a football team that I think they realize that this quarterback isn't going to win it for you. And we need to get to the draft and find us a new quarterback. And that's how I think that this is going to play out. So I understand that Biden spoke, but he could babble all over himself, or he could give the greatest, he could give the Gettysburg Address. I don't think it's going to matter.
No, I agree with that. Well, again, with last night, it felt more like a national memorial. I didn't think anything he said was necessarily like, I didn't walk away from it thinking things were going to change. In hindsight now, waking up this morning, I think he clearly knew some of this stuff out of New York State and other things were coming down the pipe. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't have been as bold as he was, saying like enough is enough. Some of the stuff I do want to talk. I'm just curious of your opinion, because you are a little more to the left. I think we're both towards the center, but you obviously are left center. Some of this stuff, I'm just curious your opinion of it. The banning of bullet-resistant vests, I don't understand that.
The banning of it?
Yes. Civilians are banned. They cannot purchase bullet-resistant vests.
I can't even think of a philosophy as to why that would. So we would need someone smarter than us to explain that.
It says the only people that are allowed to purchase it are people that work in law enforcement or other specific professions. That one I'm not.
Well, I guess, okay, so here's my philosophy then. The only reason I can think of is someone who is going in that maybe these mass shooters wear bulletproof stuff. So they kind of know they're on a kamikaze suicide mission, and they're going to get off as many rounds as they can, so they want to protect themselves for as long as they can. That's my only rational guess. Because I guess, in real life society, how often have you worn bulletproof stuff? So
I mean, I've never done it. I like, to me,
that's
you and I
that's
talked
what I
about this.
think they're saying.
No, I get that. You and I have talked about this. I don't love any time society is banned from purchasing something, especially, like, to me, a bulletproof vest. I'm not implying I would ever purchase one. I'm not implying that I wake up every day loving the fact that I'm not in a situation where I need to own one or purchase one. But just anytime we ban something from society, my question is always why, and I'm just always very wary of that.
No, I'm with you.
Another one that they brought up is they brought in the red flag law. You and I talked about red flagging yesterday a little bit. They're going to expand the list of people who can file for extreme risk protection orders, which allows court to temporarily seize firearms from anyone believed to be a danger to themselves or others. I've talked to you before. I'm pro red flagging. Now, I'm open to the debate and the discussion of how we should red flag this stuff. I don't. The red flagging is interesting because I've always viewed red flagging as prohibiting people from purchasing guns. I've never viewed red flagging as having the ability to take guns away that have been previously purchased. So I am curious what that would look like in New York State and what that would mean for red flagging, because that is not how I ever viewed it.
Right.
So that one will be interesting as well. So it'll be interesting. New York State's kind of the first one to put their, they're going to put their foot out first, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I mean, you knew it would be one of the very, very blue states, and you've got New York, you've got California, so it's not surprising that's where it started. We'll see where it goes.
Oh, I'm with you. The other one, there is a debate going on right now by Texas law. This is from the Uvalde shooting. By Texas law, cops must wear body cams while working. In the absence of clear answers, some have hoped that video footage from the scene will shed light on the apparent lack of action from nearly 20 cops who waited outside the classroom as fourth grade kids were desperately calling 911, begging for help inside of Robb Elementary School. I haven't had enough time to really think about this, but I wanted to bring it up to you because I thought we could think out loud a little bit about it. My initial reaction, I would assume most of this stuff is either federal or state money. It's stuff that's paid through the people's taxes. The question to me then becomes, is the footage, I don't want to call it public knowledge, but this footage is technically paid for through citizens. Like, it's their tax dollars at work. And so I do wonder if they should have to release it or not.
Well, yeah, my question is why would they not release it? And my first question is who gets to see it then? If only the police get to see the police cam footage,
what's the point?
Then that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So, and it's there to protect. It's certainly there to protect the police, but it's. I would think that it should. Yeah, I mean, you would think in today's day and age, you could just upload it at the end of every whatever. You could just upload the footage. So,
there's two issues here at play. One of them is proving that they do in fact have the footage. There is belief that the Uvalde Police Department was not wearing their body cams when this happened or when this went down. I think there's two ways to look at that. One of them is it's a state law. Why don't you have them on? The other, my only pro argument for them would be this was so out of the normal circumstances that maybe you're just rushing to the scene. Maybe, it's such a mind-blowing experience that this is happening that your last thought of action is like making sure your body cam is turned on.
For everyone, though?
I know. Oh, listen, I know. I'm just playing a little devil's advocate here and just, trying to ride both sides of the fence a little bit. The other piece of this is there is a loophole in Texas law. It's called the dead suspect loophole. So they believe that in order for the footage to not become public, because it's believed it would be pretty damning for the police department, they could use the dead suspect loophole to keep anyone from seeing the footage. That is, anytime there is footage of a suspect actually dead, they can confiscate it and keep it because it's for like state records, and it can't be released.
Huh.
So to me, the two questions that need to be answered is, if you're going to use this loophole, the first question is there footage? Because right now people seem to believe that there isn't footage available, which then is against Texas law. Like, why weren't there body cams on? Why don't they have the footage? But then the second issue becomes, can they hide behind this loophole? Why would you want to hide behind this loophole, as you already kind of hinted at the beginning of this conversation? So the whole thing, I find myself pro releasing it, because if you don't have anything to hide, like if you believe you've done your due diligence and you did what you were supposed to do, release it. And B, I really believe, I'm curious how it would work out in the court of law. I really believe this footage, it's paid for by the public, right? It's paid for through taxes, through federal and state money. I would imagine this footage, a piece of it belongs to the public. Like, it was paid for and funded.
Oh, absolutely. So, I can't imagine why they wouldn't be able to see it. And the dead suspect is, I can understand in certain crime scenes, but like not in this one. I don't get it. If they have the footage and they don't release it, it's totally to cover their asses.
Yeah, so it gets a little deeper. In November of 2020, they actually borrowed more than $13,000 from the city council to spend on state-of-the-art body cams. This was according to an article in the Uvalde Letter News, their local paper. The plan was to get that money reimbursed by a grant from the Justice Department. There's currently no record of the city of Uvalde receiving a Department of Justice grant since then. So this essentially was, as of right now, according to the Uvalde local paper, these body cams were paid for by city council, which essentially means it was coming out of their budget.
It's no matter how whether the body camera comes out or not or whatever, the Uvalde police will, they will stand in the corner for a long, long time. Like, there's no way they come out of this and people are like, oh, now I understand. Oh, now they look better. Now it's bad, and there's no way to dress this one up.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. So those were kind of the two stories that were on my mind this morning. Obviously, after our conversation yesterday,
the body cam. The thing about the body cam is it's like when police investigate themselves, and there's certainly a what word am I looking for? They're not unbiased, shall we say? So when they're investigating, were cops out of line? And, you talk about the blue shield and are they covering for each other? So there are instances, if you want an objective, if the body camera footage is asked to be used objectively, then someone has to see it who's not in the police. So why wouldn't it be made publicly accessible?
No, I agree. So it'll be interesting if they hide behind this loophole. The interesting thing with these body cams and whether or not they used them or not, if the footage is released, I think one of the real questions is going to be, like, not a strategy question, but everyone's, why did they wait? Why didn't they go in? I do know that before, I'm forgetting on the incident, there was one incident, it would have been before COVID. But essentially after that, they changed the way that these circumstances were dealt with. So like in early 2010, the idea behind all of this is like a hostage situation, and everyone knows it from every hostage movie. The whole goal is to de-escalate. Don't escalate, control the perimeter, do not escalate the situation. So they start, firing and killing people. What they realize is a lot of these people in school shootings, they're not there necessarily to take a hostage. Like, they are there to kill people. And so what they did is they changed their tactics. And so the whole idea is most of these people don't want to play defense. Most of these people, they want to kill innocent people. And then most of the time when they're finally pinned down or they feel like there's resistance, they end up stepping down or they kill themselves. And so they changed it. I hate to make it sound like a sports analogy, but they changed the playbook at some point, I think in 2016 or 2017, of what the strategy is for this stuff. You do not create a perimeter. You do not bunker down outside. The whole point actually is to kind of go in and you de-escalate by escalating. Like you let them know that you are there and you let them know that they need to hunker down because like it's coming. And they did none of that. Like this is like I'm just a normal schmuck from PA and I understand what the strategy, like what the basic perimeter strategy of a school shooting is. And you had 20 cops in Uvalde, Texas, who just completely either never had the training, completely failed their training, something awry where they just completely did not grasp the concept that I think a lot of people now grasp.
Well, I think too, when you go back to the body camera, I think there's an aspect of it where it would be a positive for the police because people would then see what the police deal with on a constant daily basis, and this I don't. That's why I would be surprised that the police would not be in favor of making it all public because, yeah, I think if you saw some of the normal interactions that they have, we see the bad ones, but there are some that are on the other side, and then I think in some ways it would paint the police as sympathetic, and it would paint them in a good light. And you're like, you know what, sometimes the police are out of line with the criminals or with the suspects, but you know, sometimes that the people are out of line with the police, and the police were polite and the police were patient. They were I think it would be interesting.
It's going to be really. Vicky says, I think if they release the footage, it should have to be played in its entirety and not allow media outlets to pick and choose what clips of the video are shown. I think certainly, I think the loophole here is going to be how do they show most of it without falling into that, what was it called that I had just read to you? Dead suspect loophole.
Dead suspect loophole.
Yeah, that one would be interesting. How much are you going to be able to show? I would imagine, though, I mean, they were outside the building for over an hour. I would imagine most of that hour you're going to be able to show. I mean, I can't imagine you wouldn't be able to. So Very interesting. We'll see what happens with it. On to hopefully some, I don't want brighter conversation. Maybe this isn't brighter conversation.
No, this is fun. This is fun. Okay. And you're going to be able to help me with this because, you know, I was a child of the 80s. You were more of the 90s and into the new millennium. And you're the first person, you are the first male I ever heard talk about boy bands in a positive light.
Love boy bands.
Because my era thought boy bands were a joke. You know, you can't go from Guns N' Roses to Motley Crue to NSYNC and like consider yourself to be a man. So, so I was walking down the street yesterday. I was walking down the streets of Williamsport yesterday, and I saw a girl coming towards me. I say girl. I'm guessing mid-30s at least. So it's not it's not like a high school girl.
Yeah.
And she had on an NSYNC t-shirt.
Okay.
And she was black.
Okay.
And immediately I was surprised because of my era of music. We would have never seen a black girl or a black guy walking down the street in a Van Halen shirt or a Motley Crue shirt or anything like that. There just wasn't the crossover. But and I would suspect the same way would be grunge-ish with the Pearl Jams and with the Nirvanas. But did the boy band era, because it was dancing and poppy, and I know that not only because you grew up in this era, but you played basketball and there was a lot of, as we've mentioned, there were times you were the only white guy on the team or there were just a couple. Did the boy band era cross over? Is that something that was played in locker rooms?
Well, here, I mean, it's certainly, in my experience, it was not played in locker rooms. It was something that it would be played at parties. It is something that I think most people, like in any joyous setting, it would be played, and it was across races. It was across genders. Like it didn't, like most guys that acted too tough for Backstreet Boys, if it was midnight at a frat party and I Want It That Way came on, very few of them were not a part of the scene, if you get what I'm saying. Like, it wasn't, no one was like, oh my God, I can't believe they're playing this. This is the part of it that I think most people don't realize. Pop and hip hop, like especially late 90s and in the 2000s, were so much more connected than people realize. Like, if you take away the vocals on an NSYNC track, or you take away the vocals on like a Nelly track and you just swap them, they work. There's not that much difference between the instrumental of a boy band track and the instrumental of like a late 90s 2000s hip hop artist. And that's where like it's like listening to the same thing in a lot of ways. It's just, do you want a male crooning over it, or do you want someone, you know, spitting a bar over it? And that's really what the preference comes down to.
And that was my immediate, as I'm walking, within 15 seconds, I went from shocked to, oh, maybe that is a genre that did crossover because of their style.
It just, this is the other part of it that is, it's not hard to explain, but there's just this finite group of people that kind of like experienced both. And that transition from like the late 90s to like middle 2000s, every rapper was hopping on a boy band song. So you would have verse, chorus, and then the bridge was a rapper. And the rapper would, you know, spit 16 bars, and then you'd go into the last chorus and move on. So you had all these remixes and all of these different bands joining together and making this stuff. And it just kind of, I think it made people realize that there's really not a ton of difference here. It's just, do you want 5 guys singing at you, or do you want someone spitting verses at you? And that's really the instrumental isn't all that different.
Okay. Well, there you go. And I knew that would be like right in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, that's I'm not a musical like savant or anything, but like that's my opinion of somebody who was very deep in that culture during that time period. You also had NSYNC was weird because NSYNC did stuff that like Backstreet Boys and like NSYNC dressed more hip hop. NSYNC danced more hip hop. NSYNC became more about the show than the actual, like Backstreet Boys. Like, I still view them as like a singing group, whereas NSYNC really, like right after them, it was about the performance and the show, and about like, it was about the magazine cover. It was about, you know, like there's pictures of NSYNC wearing like blue jean jackets with like chains, and it's, you know, like they were kind of transitioning over, and I don't know, it was certainly a melting pot at that time of just like the genres of music and what was happening.
Okay.
You also had people
like you went out and you bought like Backstreet Boys, you bought 98 Degrees.
Oh, when in the 90s, I definitely had Backstreet albums. I had 98 Degree albums, NSYNC albums when they first came out. No Strings, when NSYNC dropped No Strings Attached, you couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't go anywhere without hearing No Strings Attached.
Well, but you were just a kid then. You were 10. So I give you like, you have.
Well, no, just to give you an example, like I think when No Strings Attached came out, I think I was 14, maybe. I think I was 14 when it came out. Now, like the original Backstreet stuff, I was probably like still in middle school. Like I was still like going through that phase.
Is Bye 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 on that one? That's the one I know.
Bye 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 was No Strings Attached. I think I would have been like 14 or 15 when No Strings Attached came out.
Have I ever told you? I saw NSYNC live. Did I ever tell you this story?
I think you. I don't know.
Janet Jackson was playing in the Baltimore Arena, and we had tickets at the office. And someone gave our office 2 free tickets, and the one girl that worked there wanted to go, and she didn't have anyone to go with. And I was like, yeah, I'll go see Janet Jackson. Yeah. And so we go in, and the arena is full of girls like ages 13 and under. Mm-hmm. And I was immediately wondering like why. And then so then this band comes up on stage, the opening band, And I look at the girl with me and I said, who the hell is NSYNC? And she's like, well, first of all, it's NSYNC. And they're really famous. And I was like, I've never heard of them. So the first time I ever heard of NSYNC, I saw them live.
Yeah.
And then I'll tell you this. I don't know if I ever told you this story. Okay, you're gonna have to give me the members. Obviously there was Timberlake and Lance Bass.
Yep.
And who I'm missing a famous.
I can look it up. There was Joey Fatone.
Fatone, that's the one. Okay, so in the movie I wrote, Joey Fatone was friends with the producer.
Okay.
So Joey Fatone had been in other movies that they had made, like horror movies, like these, low budget horror movies. So Joey Fatone was going to be one of the key actors in the movie I wrote. But then he got a gig. He was like, he did The Price is Right for a while, I think.
Okay.
He was a game show host, is what he'd got to be after NSYNC had come and gone. And so he couldn't, there was some problem with the filming, so they gave him a bit part. So he was only on set for like a day.
Yeah.
But so in between shoots, I was talking to him and I said, I'm sure you hear this all the time, but I saw you open for Janet Jackson in the Baltimore Arena. And he looked at me, goes, that may be the first time I've ever heard that one. So I was like, well, there you go. I was there. So, yes, Joey Fatone.
Nice. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It was Lance Bass, who you may remember.
There was a guy named Chris.
There was Chris Kirkpatrick was another one. The maybe the best singer in the group was JC Chazes.
Okay.
He might have been, like, if you're just talking about like musical talent, he might have been better than Timberlake, but he didn't, Timberlake just he could dance, he could do everything. Whereas Chazes was more just kind of like there to sing. But
did you ever you've seen Timberlake on Saturday Night Live, right?
Yeah, really good.
Did you see the one where they're like, who is the last member? Who is the other member? It wasn't JC, it wasn't Chris, and it wasn't Joey. It was, who was the other one? Did you say
Lance Bass?
No. Okay, then it wasn't Lance.
There's Justin Timberlake, Lance Bass, Joey Fatone, JC Chazes, and Chris Kirkpatrick.
Chris Kirkpatrick, then that's who it would have been. Because they were like, who? And it was a guy dressed up. It might have actually been him. And they're like, can you name the last member of NSYNC? And he was like, I can't remember. He's like, it's me. And he's like, I still can't remember. It was very, very funny. If you've never seen any of the Justin Timberlake on Saturday Night Live, they are fantastic.
No, he's really, really good. There's one
I was
skit
just
where
saying, he's one of the more talented people in America. His ability to sing and dance and act, and he's a super, super golfer. I don't know if you knew that. He's a fantastic amateur golfer.
There's like I've never seen a list, but we should make one of like I don't know what we would call them, but they're like the Jamie Foxx, Justin Timberlake's, Donald Glover's, like, of the world. Like these people that just seem to like do everything at an above average level.
Huh. Yeah. I mean, there's not a huge.
If Jamie Foxx came on here right now, like, he could do impressions, he could do stand up, he could act, he could sing, he could play the piano. There's nothing he couldn't do if we asked him to do it. And those people are just very few and far between. But I've always thought Timberlake was very close. He's kind of. Yeah, and even like he doesn't do stand up, but there is a comedic chop to him, like that he could pull something off.
Well, when you see him on Saturday Night Live, he's great. His timing is wonderful. When you watch, I know he's in The Social Network. I remember him from Friends with Benefits. He's fantastic.
Yeah, Eddie Murphy's another one. Like Eddie Murphy could do he could do whatever you wanted him to do.
Because My Girl Wants to Party All the Time.
That's right.
Do you remember that song? Or are you too young for that song?
Too
My
young for
Girl Wants to Party. He had a hit, and it was kind of cheesy. But when you dig it up. That's true. Another one that just comes to mind to me is The Rock, because to go from being like the WWE champion the way he was, and I know that's all, theatrical, but there have been other guys who have been, and I can't think of the guy's name, and my son would make fun of me, but there have been other wrestlers who have gone to the big screen. Rob Van Dam did.
Well, slow down, because I want to talk about The Rock. What's funny about The Rock that you just pointed out to me, and this is my fault, I never considered The Rock because there's not really a musical element to him, but he has an athletic element to him that I don't hold against like Fox or Timberlake.
Right.
So it's weird that I don't consider him in that group, but now that I think about it, he probably does belong in that group.
Well, didn't you see him play Leave in Sacramento? Didn't I play that for you?
Yeah.
He's a musician.
he's a little different, but yes, I get your point. He could suffice. That's what you're saying.
For those of you, just YouTube, sometimes it's like 3 minutes long. The Rock, Sacramento, and it'll come up, and it was a clip back from when he was in the WWE, and it is hysterical.
Yeah.
And he's playing guitar, playing acoustic guitar, singing along, and he's good.
This would be the last one to wrap this up, and it doesn't go along with the people we just mentioned, but I may have told you before, I got to see TPain in concert, and it is, for most people, TPain is the auto-tune guy. He's the guy who just makes he makes club music, and you don't even get to hear his real voice because it's all auto-tune, right? I saw him live. Not only did he play every instrument on that stage to like perfection, he played the drums, he played the horns, he played the guitar, he played the piano. Anything and everything on that stage, he played it to an A+ level, and he can sing without auto-tune. It's like, as a musician, what TPain is able to do is the exact opposite of what most people think TPain can do. It's insane what a great musician he is.
See, I don't even know who he is, but I know you've told me this story before. He's kind of the guy who first brought autotune. I'm thinking of more people. Ariana Grande.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Is a really good actress. Gaga.
Yep.
Would kind of fall into it. Because there's so many people who have branched, and Madonna obviously did, and there's so many musicians that went into the theatrical world. But
to me, the key is the comedic and music aspect. Like, I think it's easier for a comedian to act. I think it's easier for a musician to act. I think it's hard for an actor to make music or an actor to be a comedian. So I'm always impressed by the people that can add the musical comedic aspect to that, because that's, I like, this sounds rude to like real professional actors who are amazing, but it's much easier for other people to get into that than it is for them to show like, I could be a stand-up, or like I could be a #1 selling artist. It's just harder to make that transition.
No, that's fair. I'll give you that. I'm trying to think. There have been some. I know Russell Crowe was in a band. Jack McDowell, who's a Cy Young winner in Major League Baseball, was in a band. I know Bernie
Victor Oladipo has an album. Heather says No Strings Attached came out in 2000. So I would have been 13, 14. I would have been 14 that spring.
Who did you say has an album? I missed that part right before she came out.
No Strings Attached came out in
2000. Right before she started talking about that. You said something about, I thought you said something else.
Victor Oladipo has an album.
Does he really?
He's a basketball player, yeah. Vicky says The Rock sings and plays ukulele in Journey to Treasure Island. Shame on me. He also sings in Moana. He has like a #1 song in the Disney movie Moana that people love.
I mean, when you watch him play, like, I'm telling you, The Rock, Sacramento. I just thought of another one. You know who else kind of fits into this? Is Shaq.
Yeah, that's a fair one.
Because I don't know if he does stand up, but he's funny. Like he's very natural in front of the camera.
So I think now that we've thrown out names, there's clearly levels to this, because to me, like, Fox is like an A level, like to me, he's at the top of the pyramid.
I think Timberlake's right up there with him.
You think it's funny because you're not going to know who I'm talking about. I think Donald Glover, who also goes by Childish Gambino, He is also at the top of that pyramid. You don't know him.
What? No, I don't know him. What's he doing?
He was on Community. He has a bunch of #1 albums as a rapper. He goes by Childish Gambino when he raps. He's also a stand-up comedian. He has specials on Netflix. I mean, he has the #1 show on television, Atlanta, on FX. He writes and directs, and then
well, I was going to say too, when you get into the writing, directing, Ice Cube has to be in the discussion.
Sure. Yeah. No. Sure.
Did you know this?
Maybe we'll make our pyramid. Maybe we'll make our pyramid and post it in the group. Is what we'll do.
I mean, and we are in the discussion as well. Did you know this? You've obviously seen Boys in the Hood.
Make it quick because we have to go to our meeting.
Oh, originally they'd approached NWA about Boys in the Hood, that they were thinking of all the guys, but they said when they came around, Ice Cube was the only one who really showed any interest and was like, yeah, I'll do this. So that's why at the end it was just him, but originally they were all approached.
Interesting.
At least that's what I heard.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
We'll make our pyramid. We'll share it on the group sometime. Thank you guys for watching the Midday Show. Be sure to go to NorthcentralPa.com for all of your local news.
All right, we'll see you. Drum roll included. Next time, it'll be even bigger and better.
Enjoy your weekend. I'm Jeff Everett. He's Mark Messina. Thanks for watching the Midday Show.
We'll see you.